Hey guys, it's Brandon again. As you may have known, I've done some videos in the past about living out of my car, how I do it, where I go to sleep, and why I chose to do it for myself. And I've gotten a lot of feedback about it, mostly positive, of people very interested in that lifestyle, specifically thinking about doing it themselves. And so I thought it'd be a very good idea to not only talk about the positive reasons why it might be good, at least for a period of your life, but also to really reiterate the risks that are involved when you're living out of your car. So in this video, I want to talk about 5 risk factors in particular that you definitely need to consider if you're thinking of living out of your car, or even just using your car to sleep in on a road trip or anything like that. The first risk factor is tickets. So if you are like me and you're utilizing your car as your sleeping place, you might know that one of the best places to do so would be in a residential area or a parking lot or something like that. The issue comes in when you are trying to find a place to sleep and it's dark, it's late at night, maybe you're tired or something like that, and you don't see some of the no parking signs that are posted throughout the block or the street. The last thing that you want is to be sleeping in your car and 6 or 7 in the morning, somebody like a patrol officer or something comes knocking on your window and gives you a ticket because you're parked in a zone that's going to have street sweeping that day. So my advice for this is anytime you're about to park your car to go to sleep, always check to see if there are street signs anywhere on the block that you are trying to stay at. One of the things that I've seen in a couple of neighborhoods is there will be one single street sign that's at the entrance to the neighborhood that says no parking anywhere on this block or this tract or this neighborhood, on Wednesday from 9 to 12 or something like that. And that's the only sign on that whole neighborhood. Now, if you didn't know better and you just went straight into the middle of the block or something, you wouldn't see any street signs anywhere and you would assume that you're safe to stay there. But unbeknownst to you, there was that one sign there that said you can't park anywhere on that block. So again, just go into the neighborhood or the parking lot or whatever and look for the nearest street sign and see what it says. Make sure that you can park there so that you don't get an expensive ticket. The second risk factor is a lot more serious than simply getting a parking ticket. Risk number 2 is the risk of theft or violence. So obviously, if you are sleeping in your car, you're putting yourself out in public and you're putting yourself in a higher risk or at a higher risk for theft or violence. This is one of the reasons why I tend to never sleep in the same spot day after day. There are a number of spots in various cities that are kind of like my go-to spots where I know I feel comfortable and I have particular reasons why I sleep there. But throughout those few spots in any particular city, I will rotate which spot I sleep in each night so that I'm never at the same spot every day or even like every other day. Like I rotate them enough to the point where I won't be in the same spot until like another week later or something like that. There are people out there that might wait for you to take a step out of your car or to somehow put your guard down and then, come up and steal your wallet or steal your car or harm you or something like that. That's a very real risk. Also, as you may know, the car that I sleep in is it's a small sedan. It's a Honda Civic. You may know that these type of cars are pretty notorious for being broken into, and people will come look through the windows, see what kind of sound system you have, see if you have any valuables in the front or back seat or anything like that, and they're pretty easy targets to thieves. Some of the ways to alleviate this risk would be, as I mentioned in previous videos, try to avoid at all costs setting up your bed and getting ready to sleep in the physical spot where you're going to be sleeping for that night. Do all of that stuff somewhere else, get everything ready, and then only go to the place where you're actually going to park for the night once everything's said and done, and all you need to do is hop into the back. This minimizes the amount of time that you spend outside of your car. It minimizes the amount that you're fidgeting around in the front seat and, allowing other people to see movement happening in the car. So that's probably the best way to avoid unwanted attention. As far as somebody looking into your car and breaking in, the best way I can think of to avoid that would be to, 1, try to locate yourself in somewhat nicer neighborhoods, or at least neighborhoods that don't have bars on the windows and stuff like that. That would be a definite red flag. But also, if you can, tint your windows, cover your windows. I always have like a sunscreen or sunshade on the windshield. I would imagine hanging up things in front of the windows as opposed to simply getting them tinted might indicate to people outside that somebody's sleeping in there. But that's actually what I do anyways, because my windows aren't tinted. So that might be something to consider. But yeah, definitely theft or violence is something you really need to be careful with and try to minimize, any kind of problems. Another idea that I might throw out there is every time I go to sleep, I always put my key, my wallet, and my phone, kind of like the 3 essentials, in the exact same spots every single night, so that whenever I wake up, if I'm woken up unexpectedly, I know exactly where I put each of those 3 things, and they're usually very close to my body. It might also not be a bad idea to carry something like pepper spray, which is something that I have in my car, and keep that within arm's reach and handy, and know how to use it. It might seem excessive to some people, especially depending on the area that you live in, but really it's nothing to joke around with. Your safety needs to be of utmost concern. Okay, risk number 3 is car accidents. So it's important to remember that when you're living in your car, what you're essentially doing is taking your bed and your home and putting it on the road. And I don't know if that's something that people really think about too much when they're first thinking of living in their car, even though it sounds very obvious. Your bed is on the street along with other cars and traffic. And so with that comes the very real risk that in the middle of the night while you're sleeping or something like that, somebody could rear end you. Somebody could crash into your car and seriously hurt you. In my particular case, as you may know, when I sleep, my bottom portion of my body is in the trunk, and the upper part of my body is in the back seat. So just imagine if I'm laying down for the night, I'm sleeping, and somebody rear ends me. That would be like catastrophic, if not fatal. So with that being said, one of the things that I definitely consider is where you park. There are some streets that I like to sleep on, for instance, that are larger streets, they're 4 lanes, they're opposing ways of traffic going on, and cars are allowed to go down at like 45 miles per hour. I specifically like to sleep in that spot or those spots because of some other things that I think are beneficial. Like for instance, that side of the street that I sleep on is not right in front of houses. There are a bunch of hedges right along the sidewalk so people can't look into my car, that type of stuff. But yeah, that's a very real risk as cars are moving very fast down that street. One of the things that I try to do to alleviate that is to avoid sleeping on that particular street on Fridays and Saturdays. This is because Fridays and Saturdays obviously are the days that people are most likely to be out partying and drinking and things like that. And so, freak accidents with drunk drivers are a little more likely on those nights. Of course, this can happen, a car accident like this can happen on any night, but I at least take that step. Please be aware that even if you're parking in a parking lot where cars are only moving 5 miles per hour, that's still a moving vehicle. So you're not completely safe anywhere. Okay, risk number 4 is social implications. What do I mean by social implications? Well, even though the living out of your car or van life lifestyle is becoming a little bit more accepted these days, it still definitely causes people to question a lot of things, to question you, to question your sanity, to question your path in life, things like that. And although, I don't recommend being dishonest with people or being shy to, be upfront about who you are or what you're doing, there are some occasions for some people at some times where, you could definitely have some social repercussions if people find out that you're living out of your car. A couple of examples that I can think of is, maybe you're living out of your car and at the same time you're trying to find some new work, a new job, something like that. And your employer somehow, or your potential employer somehow finds out that you live out of your car. Obviously that could be something that makes them reconsider your candidacy for the job. Another example might be tensions with your family members. I know a lot of us have stress of, expectations that our family has on us. And if they were to find out that you were living in your car, that could definitely put a strain on the relationship, or at the very minimum, force some very uncomfortable conversations. Now, how big of a deal this is to you is, completely personal, but it is something that everyone should be aware of, that there are implications to people finding out that you live in your car. On a slightly more lighthearted note about this, it has implications to your relationships as well, like with boyfriend girlfriend type thing. Like, obviously, I don't think that you can expect to have the same type of dating life if you're living out of your car, for probably pretty obvious reasons. I like to kind of imagine this joke in my head of going into a bar and like having a really great conversation with a girl or something, knowing that the end of the night is, there's not going to be any like coming back to my place type of thing, because what are you going to do, bring somebody back into your Honda Civic? Like, that scenario just wouldn't work out. Okay, risk number 5, and the final risk factor that I have for you in this video would be health risks or health problems. So obviously, laying in a car all night, if you do it incorrectly, can have some very serious repercussions on your body and your health. When I first started sleeping in my car, I would sleep in the front seat with the seat reclined, or I would sleep in the back seat, in which case my body couldn't lay fully straight. Whether you're doing that or something else, you definitely have to worry about like your spine alignment, if your body is able to stretch out and move while you sleep, pinched nerves, things like that. Those can all really affect your happiness, your health, your well-being. So whenever you're gonna do this, even if it's for a short road trip or like just 1 or 2 nights or something like that, please try to make yourself as comfortable as possible. The way that I do this is I have a very thick, comfortable sleeping mattress or a sleeping pad that you would use for camping. And to be quite honest, like, I sleep better on this thing than I did in the bed on my apartment. Plus, as I mentioned, when I go to sleep, I have half of my body in the trunk and the upper half of my body in the back seat. And this is the only way that allows me to actually have my body laid completely flat. This kind of leads to something that you might have seen in my most recent video, which is blood clots. As you may know, I had a blood clot last year, which is a very, very serious health condition. It could be life-threatening even. And although I told my doctors at the time that I was sleeping in my car, they weren't able to say conclusively if that was the cause of the blood clot. Still, with that being said, it's probably not that far-fetched to think that it was a very likely cause of the clot. So if you don't know already, blood clots are caused from poor circulation, specifically like in your legs where you can get a DVT. That's what they call it. I think you can increase the risk of a blood clot if you don't allow your body to be comfortable, if you don't give yourself the space for your body to naturally stretch and move around while you sleep, things like that. So if you are going to be sleeping in your car, even for a night or two, try to make everything as natural and comfortable as you possibly can, because those health problems can really come back to bite you. Another one would be the air ventilation in the car. When I first started doing this, I was reading about this idea, and it sounds like in most cars, even if your windows are rolled all the way up, you shouldn't have a problem with air ventilation coming in and you being able to breathe properly. There are enough openings in the car, through the vents, throughout the car, where things are not airtight, and you'll be fine if you sleep in your car. But even with that being said, I always feel a little bit more comfortable cracking the windows open just a little bit, even if it's cold outside, so that extra air can come through. With that being said, again, you are sleeping essentially in traffic, which means that any air that's coming through, it might be better than rolling up the windows completely, but you got to keep in mind that the air that you're breathing is coming from the street. So whether that's smog, whether that's the dirt and the dust that's in the air from the streets, or like cars always have like dust coming from their brakes, being emitted to the air, like you're breathing in that stuff essentially. And I don't know how serious that really is. I feel great, I don't have any problems, but it's something that I wonder about and I think about, and should be a part of your consideration if you're thinking about living in your car. Well guys, those are the 5 risk factors that I have for living in your car or sleeping in your car. If you can think of any in particular that are very important for everyone else to know, please share them in the comments, because there are a lot of people, like I said, that watch these type of videos and are thinking about this for themselves. Please, no matter what you do, whether you're planning to live in your car or whether you're just taking a road trip and you're sleeping in your car, whatever, put your safety and your health at the utmost priority or importance.